Hi and welcome to an Etrata Deadly Fugitive Commander deck tech video. We're basically going to talk a little bit about how you can build her different potential options, but also a little bit about her power level, or theoretical potential power level. She is a 3 mana black, blue and 1 generic for a 1/4 legendary creature Vampire Assassin. She has Death Touch, and then 2 other different abilities. Face down creatures you control have 2 generic, 1 blue, 1 black. Turn this creature face up if you can't exile it. Then you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. The secondary ability, whenever an assassin you control deals combat damage to an opponent, cloak the top card of that player's library. Cloak is similar to Manifest and Morph. It's a 2/2 colorless creature without any creature type, but now it also has Ward 2, so it's got a tiny bit of protection. This means that she is something of a value engine. You attack at your opponents, you steal their cards, and then you can use the 4-mana ability to flip expensive creatures or cast expensive spells. Now this means that if you theoretically exile someone's Peer into the Abyss, you could cast it for only 4 mana. But you could, for example, manifest the top card of your library with various tricks, and if you happen to have your Peer into the Abyss on top of your library, then boom, there you have it. But I don't recommend this. This is very gimmicky. You need something like a Vamp Tutor to put Peer into the top of your library, and then use Cloud Form. So now we're getting into the point where you could have just cast Peer into the Abyss instead. In the end, just because you could doesn't mean that you should. But before we leave this part about self-manifesting, I would like to mention Primordial Mist. It's a 5 mana cost enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you may manifest the top card of your library. This will basically put the top card into a face-down 2/2 creature position. Exile a face-down permanent you control faced up. You may play that card this turn. Now, what I really like about that is that if you theoretically exile someone's Vamp Tutor from an opponent, you could use Primordial Mist to cast the Vamp Tutor for 1 black mana instead of Etrata's 4 mana version. But also, if you theoretically manifest the top card of your library with Primordial Mist, like an Adnos or something that is expensive, more than 4, you could pay 4 mana for your Adnos instead. But there's one more thing I would like to focus on when it comes to this commander. Whenever an assassin you control deals combat damage to an opponent, you may cloak, you get a trigger. This doesn't just trigger when she connects. Now I think she's gonna have an easy time connecting because she's a 1/4 with Death Touch. No one is really going to block this, and if they do block it, she's going to more or less survive. But now I'm gonna say something that will sound weird. We can actually play Assassin Tribal. And this commander more or less made me look through the entire database of all potential assassins that are worthy considerations. So first out we have this Dimir 1 blue 1 black flying 1/1. It can become a 3/3 with Death Touch, but still 1/1 flying will usually connect to opponents. When it dies, you get to draw a card, so that's kinda okay if someone actually blocks it eventually. But who cares, it's going to generate triggers on your commander. Then we have to mention this one. This is potentially the best assassin ninja goblin you can find inside the entire format. It's a 1/1, 1 black, and it can't be blocked. This is like perfect, it's exactly what we need. And then we have the secondary ninja, assassin, goblin, elemental, tribal everything, Muff Dust Changeling. Now you can tap a creature to give it flying, but yeah, still, it's a 1/1, and if it connects, you get to have a trigger. But then we're getting into stranger areas, so like Big Game Hunter is not useless, but you're usually playing it for 1 black mana Madness. This isn't something that we can normally achieve. You can build your deck a little bit depending on how you could tweak it so that you can actually Madness this into play, and if you can Madness it into play, it's okay. You don't have that many targets for it usually, like it's gonna kill Crom, but you don't have that many much like 4 power creatures that are usually running around. Sisei, Kenrith, Tassigur, but still. Instead we might look into Nightshade Assassin, that is also an assassin, Madness. You have to reveal black cards in your hand, but it can kill things. Still, you have to build your deck towards a discard theme, which could be tricky. And you don't have that many Madness cards that are assassins, so I don't think it's worth it. Don't do that. Then we have Necratal, a very old creature, human assassin, first strike 2/1. When it comes to the play, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. It's basically terror, old terror on a creature ETB effect. Little bit too expensive, personally don't like it. We have Dark Impostor, too expensive, don't play this. We have Scrabbled something elite, elf assassin, remove an assassin card in your graveyard from game, destroy target creature, 2 black mana. Yeah, maybe. I mean, if you have a lot of assassins eventually, then this could be a thing. Also, assassins are probably gonna be printed more into the future, so there's a chance that this creature and the assassin tribal could become something better in the future. We have Silumgar Assassin. Creatures with power greater than Silumgar Assassin can't block it, so that's good. A free power creature can't block this thing, and that's kind of on theme what we need. But it's also on the theme of face down here. You can actually make it turn face up for only 3 mana with a Megamorph, and in that you're going to kill a creature that an opponent controls. Big maybe on that one. But then we have Massacre Girl. So this is a board wipe, a bit expensive, 5 mana, but you will clean, or well, not, you're gonna kill like Esper Sentinels and some Tymnas and some smaller creatures. It kinda depends, you need something of a setup. I don't personally think it's that good, it's a little bit too expensive, but it kinda is an assassin board wipe, so maybe. We also have the new Massacre Girl. Human Assassin Menace, creatures you control have Wither, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, if its toughness was less than 1, draw a card. I mean, maybe. There are now and then that creatures die here and there, like people are going to kill Esper Sentinels, people might kill Dorks and such, people kill Orcish Bowmasters when they have the chance, and Orcish Bowmaster has a toughness of 1, so I can see this actually working out for you. Depending on the metagame, so to say. Other than that, you don't have that many assassins. But there's one really cool thing we can do. We can convert all of our creatures into assassins. As Arcane Adaptation enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, we're going to choose Assassin. Creatures you control are the chosen type in addition to the other types. This is same true for creature spells you control, and yeah, everything outside the game, in your hand, the battlefield, and library are basically going to be assassins. This means that suddenly Etrata are very similar to Nayela the Blade Blossom, because it's going to self-scale. Because whenever Etrata connects, she will create a 2/2, and in this case a 2/2 assassin, and whenever that assassin connects, it's also going to create a 2/2 assassin. And whenever those 2 assassins connect, they're going to create more assassins. So yeah, suddenly you can like steal a lot of cards. You don't even need many creatures inside your deck in general. You could play like 9 creatures in total, and Arcane Adaptation will still be kinda good here. And we do have more variants to it in forms of Maskwood Nexus or Conspiracy. Maskwood Nexus is actually kinda interesting too, because you can tap it, pay 3 mana, and create a 2/2 assassin here. And suddenly we're starting to go for something like a beatdown plan that is also creating a form of value at the same time, because you can flip your opponent's cards into some form of value. Etrata is more or less kind of similar to Paco, Grenzo, and Tibalt Cosmic Impostor, commanders that are stealing cards from your opponents and then gaining value from them. One thing I really like about playing these kinds of commanders is that your games are very unique. No game will be similar to the previous ones, as your variance is depending on your opponent's decks, and that's actually fun because your games will vary depending on who you're stealing from. And my experience from playing these commanders is that you should normally try to build kind of adaptive, ready to fly in whatever direction the game is basically going. In this format, we're often talking about the capacity of pivoting to a new game plan. And one thing I think these commanders are really good at is that they are good at pivoting towards different game plans, depending on what they are stealing and depending on if they're playing their own decks or if they're playing their opponent's decks. So both having cards like Primordial Mist that allows you to manifest from your own library, and then Primordial Mist without a commander will work kinda fine and good. You will draw cards and you can cast these 2/2 creatures. But on the same time operating really well when you have your commander and a Maskwood Nexus in play. Suddenly you can really go for that beatdown plan. Like, you don't need to flip any of your face down cards that you've stolen, you can stay there as 2/2s and then they scale. And we even have a assassin finisher, an assassin combo for only assassin tribal. So Ramesses, Assassin Lord, 1 black, 1 blue, 2 generic, a total of 4/4. Death touch, other assassins you control have +1/+1, so now you're building up that army. But also, whenever a player loses the game, if they were attacked this turn by an assassin you control, you win the game. So now instead of just killing all of your opponents, you can tutor for this, focus down one of your opponents, and then boom, win the game with this thing. Because one thing we have to mention about Etrata's actual power level is that it's dictated by the cards that's gonna synergize with her. So if Wizards of the Coast are printing more assassins and better assassins, her power level will increase. But then we just have to mention the obvious. I mean, we're playing Demir, so Thassa's Console Tainted Pact is great. Demir has also seen an upgrade from Born Upon a Wind together with Necropotence. That is definitely something we also can include. We have the best anti-graveyard card in the entire game, Daffy Voidwalker. Orcish Bowmaster is a really good card that we can play inside this deck. It's going to boost its power level. Even though it's not an assassin, it's gonna be good. And then obviously we can play a bunch of various rituals and tutors and such towards an Adnos that will eventually dig towards a clean combo finisher from Thassa's Oracle as well. But then we also have cool tricks and worthy mentions. Submerge. Sometimes it's free to cast because sometimes your opponents are controlling forests. So for no mana spent, you can put target creature on top of its owner's library and boom, you get rid of blockers, but also you can steal creatures. Going back a little bit towards the Primordial Mist, we have really expensive morph creatures. So Brine Elemental is something you can cast or put into play as a morph for only 3 mana, or it gets into play with your Primordial Mist. When Brine Elemental is turned face up, each opponent skips his or her next untap step. Trust me, being affected by that is quite annoying. Now, it's really expensive to flip that thing. 7 mana is quite a lot, but you can do that for only 4 mana. We have another really cool Thousand Winds. So it's a 6 mana 5/6 flying. When Thousand Winds is turned face up, return all other tapped creatures to their owner's hand. Something of a board wipe. Now instead of paying 7 mana to flip it, you can pay 4 mana to turn it face up. I don't know if they are like great must-haves, far from it if I'm gonna be honest. They are considerational options. But one thing I would like to point out is that if Wizards of the Coast are printing more face-down themed cards for the future, her power level could also grow. So it's not just assassins, it's the entire Demir combo structure, it's Assassin Tribal, but it's also things like this. So in the end, I truly think that she can be built in a lot of different variations of ways, depending on how you want to go forward with her. Now, as a final card review verdict, I think she's actually kinda good. Well, let's go with she has potential. She's definitely a commander that I think can win games. She can go to tournaments and probably perform. I think she's gonna be great in casual power level, and I think she's going to be quite great in higher power levels as well. I don't think she's ever gonna be like top tier. I don't think she's gonna compete really well in win rate comparison against other Grixis commanders. But I don't think this is something you should take for granted. I don't think you should be disrespectful towards it if you're going up against it. As I follow a lot of different tournaments and try to calculate data from what people are playing, I'm really looking forward to see what people are brewing with it. And I really hope that this video have been giving you some suggestions and inspirations. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.